You step out your back door into the crisp morning air, holding a warm ceramic coffee mug, and notice an immediate, unsettling absence. The familiar cacophony of the dawn chorus has vanished completely. There is no rustling in the dense, emerald leaves of the overgrown lilac bush. There are no sudden flashes of crimson feathers darting between the thick, rough bark of the aging pine trees. The yard is completely paralyzed. Most human observers interpret this sudden, heavy quiet as an accidental lull in the daily rhythm of nature. They glance at the empty green plastic bird feeder swinging gently on a rusted iron hook and assume the local wildlife has simply moved on to a more lucrative foraging ground. But this profound silence is not an emptiness. It is a highly coordinated, tactical freeze, orchestrated by a hidden surveillance network that is currently analyzing your every microexpression. Somewhere above you, perched on the highest, frost-covered power line that cuts across the pale morning sky, a sentinel is watching. This is not a simple, instinct-driven creature reacting blindly to a vague shadow. Look closely at the sharp, calculated gaze of a glossy black crow leaning forward on a weathered wooden utility pole. Behind that dark obsidian eye lies a densely packed cluster of neurons known as the Avian pallium. This specialized brain structure processes complex visual data with the computing power of a primate, allowing the bird to map the precise geometric angles of your facial structure. The silence in your yard is a direct result of this neural processing. A subtle, rhythmic click echoes softly from a heavy, curved beak, barely audible over the distant hum of morning traffic. It is an encrypted signal, a localized lockdown command, broadcasting across species lines to every creature hiding within the thick, tangled vines clinging to the brick wall. When a predator like a hawk casts a broad, sweeping shadow across the dew-soaked grass of your lawn, the backyard response is explosive and chaotic. You will hear the frantic, high-pitched shrieks of blue jays and see the frantic scattering of tiny, gray-winged sparrows diving into dense, thorny bramble bushes. But the silence you are experiencing now is uniquely reserved for a different kind of variable. It is a silence reserved specifically for you. The heavy, still air hanging over your damp wooden deck is the atmosphere of an active cognitive test. You are standing inside a behavioral laboratory, and the subjects are currently evaluating your threat level based on data they have been gathering for months. They are tracking the rhythmic, heavy thud of your work boots against the cracked concrete driveway. They are noting the precise angle of your shoulders as you reach for the silver metal handle of the garbage bin. Avian intelligence researchers discovered this hidden layer of urban surveillance through rigorous field experiments that shattered our understanding of animal brains. Scientists walked through manicured university courtyards wearing highly distinct, exaggerated rubber masks, presenting a novel visual stimulus to the resident flocks. A researcher wearing a grotesque, wrinkled caveman mask would capture a bird, tag it with a tiny, brightly colored aluminum leg band, and then release it unharmed into the cold autumn wind. When that same masked figure returned days later, walking empty-handed past a rusted metal bicycle rack, the environment reacted with surgical precision. The birds did not flee blindly into the high, sprawling canopy of the oak trees. Instead, they initiated a localized, targeted alarm network, utilizing specific, harsh vocal frequencies that acted as a spotlight on the approaching figure. They mapped the artificial face and committed its exact topological features to a permanent threat database. Yet when the yard goes perfectly, chillingly silent as you step onto the damp, moss-covered stones of your garden path, you are experiencing the inverse of that chaotic alarm. A sharp, iridescent blue feather twitches slightly in the deep shadows of a cedar hedge, marking a creature holding perfectly still. This coordinated quiet implies a far more complex cognitive operation. They are employing episodic memory, a mental time travel machine that allows a bird to replay past human encounters frame by frame. The dark, sleek raven sitting atop a crumbling red brick chimney is actively recalling the exact speed at which you moved your arm yesterday when you tossed a handful of pale, striped sunflower seeds onto the dry soil. If your posture changes today, if your hands are hidden deep inside the dark fabric pockets of a heavy winter coat, the algorithm recalculates. The silence holds because you have introduced a microvariable into their environment, and they require utter stillness to process the new data. The silence is a living, breathing pause in the ecosystem, governed by the strict neurobiology of suspicion. Every rustling blade of tall, yellowed grass that suddenly stops moving is a testament to this hyper-awareness. A tiny black-capped chickadee clings motionless to the rough, peeling bark of a dead birch branch, its heart rate dropping as it waits for the all-clear signal. This tiny bird, weighing less than a handful of wet autumn leaves, is participating in a decentralized intelligence-gathering operation. The sudden lack of auditory clutter allows the dominant corvids to isolate the specific acoustic signature of your breathing and the sharp snap of a dry twig breaking beneath your heel. They are establishing a baseline of your morning behavior, and any deviation from that pattern triggers an immediate, silent lockdown. The absence of song is actually the intense pressure of hundreds of tiny, calculating minds focusing entirely on a single human target. We often walk through our suburban landscapes blind to the intense, calculated scrutiny raining down from the high, interwoven branches of the neighborhood canopy. We view the scatter of empty, discarded peanut shells resting on a pristine glass patio table as charming evidence of our connection to nature. In reality, it is a bait station actively monitored by creatures possessing abstract problem-solving skills. The sharp, metallic glint of sunlight catching a black feather reveals the true masters of this environment, calculating risk and reward with cold precision. When you look up into the pale, cloud-streaked sky and wonder where all the birds have gone, they have not left. They are meticulously positioned behind the thick, green ivy creeping up the side of your garage, executing a perfect, unified protocol of stillness. They are waiting to see what the giant, unpredictable biped will do next, holding the entire soundscape of the yard hostage until you pass their hidden test. This calculated scrutiny does not fade when you step back inside your house and close the heavy wooden door behind you. The database they are building is permanent, and it outlasts the immediate encounter. Neurobiologists examining the avian brain have found that when a corvid observes a specific human face associated with a threat, the deep subcortical structures of its brain light up with intense metabolic activity, mimicking the exact neural pathways activated during human fear and recognition. This is not a fleeting, instinctual reaction that washes away with the next rainstorm. It is a highly organized cognitive filing system. A crow perched on a rusted metal street lamp outside your window can store the image of your face for years, maintaining a vivid mental portrait that remains completely unchanged even as your clothing, your hair, and your physical gait shift with the passage of time. This long-term memory system gives rise to a phenomenon that resembles an underground resistance network operating right across our manicured suburban lawns. If you cross a resident flock, the consequence is not merely a temporary silence. It is a multi-generational grudge. When researchers returned to their field sites months after their initial experiments, wearing the same wrinkled rubber caveman masks, they discovered something that shocked the scientific community. Birds that had never been captured, fledglings that had not even been hatched during the original encounters, joined in the aggressive, harsh scolding of the masked figures. The older seasoned sentinels had actively transmitted the specific visual data to their offspring and peers, utilizing precise vocal modulations and sharp, aggressive wing flaps to paint a detailed picture of the enemy. The silence you hear today might be a legacy inherited from a human interaction that took place in your garden a decade ago. As you look out through the clean glass pane of your kitchen window, notice how a single, large crow drops down from the high electric wire, landing softly on the damp, mossy roof of your garden shed. It walks with a slow, deliberate tilt of its head, its heavy black beak pointing downward toward a discarded piece of shiny aluminum foil wedged in the wooden shingles. This bird is operating with a level of causal reasoning that matches and in some metrics exceeds that of a young human child. It understands that the physical world is governed by hidden rules of cause and effect. It knows that a specific human action yields a predictable environmental reaction. The sudden, suffocating quiet that envelops your yard when you carry a bright yellow plastic bucket toward the compost pile is the sound of the flock predicting your next move based on a complex timeline of past observations. This predictive modeling is driven by a remarkable evolutionary adaptation. While a mammal relies on a thick, layered cerebral cortex to execute complex thoughts, the avian brain packs its neurons into ultra-dense, microscopic clusters that allow for incredibly rapid signal transmission. This hyper-efficient wiring means a bird can process visual frames at a much higher frequency than the human eye. To a blue jay sitting perfectly still within the dark, prickly branches of a holly bush, your movements appear slow, heavy, and easily readable. While you are casually turning your head to glance at a blooming flower, the hidden observers have already analyzed the twitch of your neck muscles, the shifting weight of your step, and the exact vector of your gaze. The silence is their ultimate shield, allowing them to remain completely invisible while processing your slow-motion reality. This environmental control extends far beyond simple self-defense. It is a highly sophisticated form of resource management. In the deep, shadow-drenched corners of your yard, beneath the massive, low-hanging branches of an old weeping willow tree, a magpie is working diligently to hide a cache of raw, unsalted almonds. It pushes the pale nuts deep into a soft patch of dark earth, then carefully places a single, dry brown oak leaf over the spot to conceal it from view. But it does not stop there. The magpie glances over its shoulder, its long, iridescent green tail feathers sweeping across the damp grass, checking to see if a rival flock member is watching from the nearby wooden fence line. If it detects a watching eye, the magpie will execute a brilliant piece of tactical deception. It will pretend to bury the food in one spot, only to secretly fly away with the nut hidden deep inside its throat pouch, caching it safely in a completely different location once the spy has departed. The silence that blankets your yard during these moments is a necessary tactical blackout to protect these hidden networks of wealth. If the songbirds and corvids were constantly chattering, filling the morning air with a wall of sound, they would broadcast their precise locations and their hidden resources to every competing predator in the area. By enforcing a strict unified protocol of absolute quiet, they create a clean slate, a blank sensory canvas where the slightest anomaly stands out like a flare in the night sky. The snap of a single dry twig, the soft rustle of a cat sliding through the tall weeds, or the metallic click of a camera lens focusing from a distant patio door becomes instantly amplified against the heavy background of silence. We live in a world where we mistakenly believe we are the primary actors, walking through a passive, unthinking backdrop of green leaves and simple creatures. But the moment your foot crosses the threshold of your back door and the local soundscape vanishes into thin air, that illusion is completely shattered. You are walking onto an active stage where you are the central subject of an intense, ongoing scientific study. The true